talking about the art and the artist.
Can y'all separate R. Kelly from his crimes and the art that he be doing?
Oh,
can y'all do it for real?
The girls are starting.
The girls are starting. Well, here's the thing. I have feelings about the things that I love. And it's just like Yu Yu Hakusho. If you were to tell me, if the creator were to fly his ass over from his house to my house to tell me, hey girl, the crimes that I had committed, very true. And Yu Yu Hakusho was heavily inspired by all of these atrocities. Not gonna lie, I would feel a little guilty for, liking these things and being like, damn. And especially as someone who rewatches the things that I love. Like, how many times have you watched all the scenes with Mila Rose and
oh my god, so many. It's not even funny.
For me, it's like, especially if I rewatch those things and then like I just start seeing the connections more and more and more, it's just like I can see myself falling out of love with something. However, that is if the crime and the art is connected hand in hand in holy matrimony.
But they're not. That's okay. So that's right.
Because that's what I'm saying. It's a case by case situation.
Yes.
And we are back.
I was trying to do a theme song, bitch. A joke.
Okay. All right.
So we have an urgent report. No, don't be sorry, bitch. I mean, we're so professional here. It's just I'm glad the managers are here. They've really left us alone ever since we found out that we've been the worst treated station in this monastery.
Listen, this is the Crimson Monastery after hours.
Nothing. This is the Crimson Report, girl.
Oh, Crimson Report.
Oh my god, the administrators are watching this, girl. So, welcome back to the Crimson Report, and we're here to talk about a controversial. Oh my god, my sister! You see, this is what happens when they leave us alone for more than 20 minutes. Like, we just start keying.
Kiki and clowning.
Alright! So, sister, there's a new, topic that has been kinda
circulating, floating around.
Yes, and I think we have to discuss it because it is a big conversation on, can we separate the art from the artist?
No! It's a very slippery topic, and I feel like it is something that should be taken on a case by case. And I know some of you girls and avid listeners out there are going to be quick to be like, no. The second they do any kind of wrong, we have to cancel them and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
However, to me, I think that especially when it comes down to pieces of media that we hold such attachment towards, like, hello, for those you know, Yu Yu Hakusho. Hello.
Come on.
Forever.
Support the girls.
He needs us to know.
Right. Right.
But
we're getting urgent reports in.
I know. Breaking news. But I think that, especially when things have such a cultural significance and all of that, it is really hard to pry those things away from people, especially when they love it so dearly.
Right.
And this is why I think that looking at crime and its connection to the art is valid as a way of being like, let me maybe, cancel this piece of media, but anything else and not in relation to it, I feel like, girl, so what if he fucking killed his neighbor?
Right.
Twerk.
Right.
Sing that song.
Right. 1, 2, 3. Vogue it out.
That's
Right. Turning into a Vogue mix. So let's state our positions kind of very generally first, so that the audience can get a clue.
Sure.
So mine is, I feel like you can separate the art from the artist, because it comes a point where once, as an artist, you release your work into the world, it stops being yours, and you become the creator, the originator, and you get credit for that. But its impact on other people and how it makes other people feel, you lose control over that. You now don't get to control that piece of media all up just because it's out in the world already. So I feel like you can separate it.
And here's my stance. If I write a song and it is about touching and molesting younger people. Okay.
My stance.
Scratch that.
My stance. Your stance. Gunshot, title, food, kill her, throw her in the ditch, turn her on fire.
But I think that if you're writing something, and let's say it has like a romance message to it, but behind the scenes it could be confirmed that people were being abused and taken advantage of for the essence of writing this song, and it was confirmed kind of thing.
Yes.
I feel like it's kind of hard to separate the crime from the art, and in turn, you cannot separate that piece of art from the artist. For me, it comes down to more how attached is the piece of media towards the crime. Because let me tell you something. Am I going to butcher my neighbor? Whoever my neighbor is, they better watch out for me. But am I gonna butcher my neighbor and collect and cultivate all of his blood so that I can go create my masterpiece next door because I needed that particular shade of red and it became the most amazing grand damn thing of all. It's in all the fucking museums. Everyone wants NFTs of it or whatever the fuck. All of the things. But then it's like, oh, it comes out years later. Hey, wait a minute. John's been missing for the past 5 years and it turns out this bitch murdered him. But can we separate the art from the artist though?
Right, so there are clearly degrees.
Like, do we want to buy my cursed painting?
Right. So, that's
a bit of an extreme example, I will admit. But in my case, from my previous example, I was talking about R. Kelly.
Yes. So, okay, so here's this we can talk about because I have a situation where I have a song that's a current song that R. Kelly is featured in that I still like. But we talked about you being like, well, I just don't want to support none of her music, period.
But here's the thing. I am also coming from a position where I don't like R. Kelly's music, period. So that's also where I was coming from in that statement. But I think that, again, is that particular song that he's featured in part of the Cursed collection of touching and
it came
abusing?
Out in 2017.
I feel like that was probably past tense where he wasn't really doing that much anymore, so you're fine.
Right, but my whole point is being like, okay, so using him as an example, it would be like the many people that have attached his songs to happy moments, weddings, birthdays, this and that, and they have their own personal connection to these songs, and they might not even be thinking about R. Kelly when they hear them. They're thinking about the emotion that it invokes upon them. That is like a place for me to be like, you know what, I can't understand those people and I see how they are not really supporting his actions. They just have their own connection with his piece of art, which just goes to show that we can hold the artist accountable.
Of course. Well,
and here's my own personal thing.
In law, yes.
Right, but here's my own personal thing. I'm an internet savvy girl, so I can find a way to enjoy your art without giving you any of the recipients or the residuals.
Yeah, I would love. Oh, oops, shady.
Exactly. Like I'm just gonna pirate your shit, no problem.
Right. So it's like if that's where it becomes. You see, this is exactly the point where I'm getting to. That means, in my eyes, that I am able to grab the art that I value and separate that from the artist because I can treat the artist in a way where I'm like, let's hold you accountable for your actions. I don't agree with what you did, and you will not be getting no stream, no view, no click, no this, no that. You will only be getting negative press and reviews from me because I don't agree with what you've done. Especially somebody like R. Kelly that all the tea has come out and like all you girls are now like shook like, oh no, how could he do this? Meanwhile, we've been kids and we've been knew about those tapes and that. Girl.
But we were children, so expecting children to already have the proper outrage that they need at the time
No, but
to
I'm
do
saying,
that. But that's what I'm saying. I know, but at the time when all of that with us been new, like we were all technically kids. But that's what I'm saying. Like to me, that's a form of protest. Yeah. Because you could apply that to any other kind of like thing out there, as long as the person who creates it doesn't get the credit, residuals from it, then like that is a win at the end of the day. But this also kind of reminds me of like people who get married at plantations, despite its history. Oh, but it's so beautiful, but it's no longer. But the history.
That part.
Well, but then here's the thing. It could be interpreted because what if that's their way of reclaiming that moment and that thing for their ancestors?
Everyone's mad.
Yeah, well,
but that's what I'm saying. No matter what, I'm reclaiming. Because again, when it comes down to reclaiming anything, no one's on the same page. Because some people don't like being called queer, but then some people reclaim queer. So it's very much a slippery slope of like, well, some people, no. Someone's always going to be mad. I feel. Right. And that's why I think, like, from a moral standpoint, and whether it looks as virtual signaling or not, that's why I think, like, if you're going to purposely, like, if this is a known piece of media that is heavily connected to a crime, and you're still like, this is my favorite, even amongst knowing that, like, I think it is valid for someone to kind of look at them and be like, I'm looking at you a little sideways.
I think that's fine because that's just human judgment. So I think it's fine for people to judge each other because at the end of the day, you're doing it in your head anyways.
Right.
So I don't mind that. It's just the empathy and the realization that there are people that are just like, I do not care about this artist as much as I care about their work because I'm detaching the two, and that understanding of maybe that will ease that little sideways eye and be like, wait, maybe you are aware. But then again, this also happens with conversation.
I will never forget.
Oh, she said no, ma'am.
No,
She said get out.
Because to me, I think that at the end of the day, he still created that with his hands when he wrote it, with his voice when he sang it, with the energy he put into the fucking song. So it's like, there is still always going to be an attachment to that piece of media, no matter how far removed he is from it, because it's like, he's already such a big name. Like, there's, at this point, it's kind of hard to remove.
I will ask you this. How would you directly link his actions were contributed to the songs that he made?
Well, it was all based off of, like, that documentary when people were kind of talking about, like, oh, I was there producing the thing with him for that particular song and present in the room about the song. The victim was there, or victims were there. So it's like, enough word of mouth and things that are happening there. Listen, I wasn't fucking there. I wasn't a fly on the wall.
That's kind of my thing. It's kind of like, we can believe an overwhelming amount of evidence. I get that. But it's just for the point of saying, like, people can separate the two because it's hard to tell other people how they interpret art and how they consume media and then say that's wrong or like have a
but even if it's something blatant, because
also, how do you know, the other question is, how do you know that person is aware or not of what the individual has done?
Well, listen, at some point people will find out. That's the thing. Like,
but
I think it doesn't matter. Eventually it's going to happen. I think that's giving not enough credit to human beings in general for not learning. Yeah. And then on top of that, giving too much credit to the artist for being like,
but learning is not needed if it's not like, I only care about your artwork. I don't care about you as an artist. That's my thing of like being like, there's always room for there to be a reasonable.
Sure, I'm not saying that that's never going to happen, but I think that given human history and just how human beings in general, I feel like eventually that hypothetical person could eventually find out, and it's still choosing, despite knowing the closeness of what was happened in that particular situation and all of that, like, it's then choosing to continue liking it and supporting and blah 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 is where then I'm like, hello. And this is why I'm saying it depends on how close the crime is to that particular piece of art. Because let me guess, Robert R. Kelly, or whatever the fuck his name is.
Robert.
We're talking about you.
Right.
Not every single song he's written was probably connected to that. And that's why I'm like, if we're going to put everything underneath a microscope and, like, scrutinize everything, like, I'm sure there's things that are definitely safe that you can still not give him the credit, or the click, or the fucking revenue and the residuals from it, but...
So what happens, like, what if they're dead? Can we, like, listen to the art then? Or do we have to be,
Girl, I don't know. I don't like R. Kelly,
But that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm asking. Taking R. Kelly out of it and just sticking that principle onto anyone else, it's like, so do we get a relief when they're dead? Because now it doesn't really matter anymore?
That's up to you. I feel like that's up to the individual. For me, like, I am not in a position where I'm so, like, luckily, like, for instance, I know that people are going to be like, Attack on Titan, something of Holocaust. Listen, because I don't agree with that opinion, I can't say that I am also in that boat of like, well, something that I really liked is now canceled and it's looked upon, because I'm looking at it for myself and I am coming up with my own kind of like opinions for it. And there was also no fucking crimes attached to the art for me to be like, damn.
It's not like he was part of the militia.
Right. It's not like he's out here fucking shooting people and doing crazy shit. Like, he
creating titans.
Right. He just has a view and you don't like it. But either way, I can't say anything because I've never been in that situation.
Right.
Or at least not that I'm aware of.
So how about this? Let's do some closing statements, basically on separating the art from the artist.
At the end of the day, my stance is always, it's a case by case. You can't give it a definitive, but you can't also, because there's also room to be like, well, hello.
Right. I'll be more on your side, but also say that it's more always toward, I think you can, because at the end of the day, you're just really like following your own version of like your lifestyle and your own choices. So at the end of the day, you only know how you interpret your thing. So I don't feel personally like anybody will have a more correct opinion on how you take media than yourself. That's it.
Must be nice. Very blissful.
I have eyes that can see.
Bad bitches to the front, please.